Hey everyone, Chomsky here. Um, there we go. Just wanted to kind of talk about Mimic for a minute, since he got released and a whole bunch of other content creators busted out their stuff. I am not a content creator, um, but I did want to talk about it and provide some ideas of potential champs for Mimic. Um, First things first, this drawing of Mimic doesn't look that exceptional. Um, I think it was Hades that tossed out there in his video that was lamenting about the cartoonish aspect of what of the leak essentially, and I agree with that. And with this, I feel like they kind of phoned this one in. This has got to be the the other like the ad essentially of Mimic, because if this is the main boss, this looks very janky. And I'm not saying thank you in Polish. It just seems that it is just kind of beneath them. For all the champs that have been released, that has just been really, really exceptional in their artwork. I'm looking at you, Joan. Uh, this just looks ridiculous. Uh, but I digress. Um, did want to talk about champs that I force that I'm excited to use for Mimic. And I guess, we could talk about the kit. It's kind of been talked about for a while, right? So I don't really want to go through it too much. Um, Frankly, it's it is what it is. Let's see if I could expand on this. I'm going to go off here, but whatever. The big thing that I wanted to touch base on was uh, da, 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 uh, let me make sure I'm looking at the right thing. I am. His A1 apparently is attacking all enemies, deals pure damage, 5% of target's max HP. So we definitely want a healer on our team of some sort. I think that's going to be paramount. So Raglan, who just got a bump, is going to look pretty sexy there. Uh, maybe not. But we do want some healers out here because 5% of our max HP can be, it's 5%. Duh. But it does add up, and especially as this is an A1, it looks like he's going to be doing this at least 4 times before feeding time happens again. I would imagine he opens up with feeding time first, but again, getting ahead of myself. This can be big. It's an AoE, 5%, and if there was a hex out here for whatever reason and it gets bounced back to us, that could be big. I don't think that's happening, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, so a team of healers, great, cool. Lashing Spiral, he places a stun, and then he's attacking everybody else who isn't stunned, and then he's also decreasing the turn meters of those that haven't been stunned. Okay, cool. So there's a whole lot of champs out there that can bump up our turn meters. Cool. Looking at you, uh, looking at you, Mad Hatter. Like that's a good example right there. He's gonna bump up that turn meter. So there's a way to recover it. It's not the ideal situation. This is a 3-turn cooldown, so we'll at least get some hits in, and I'm okay with it. Again, this is a boss. This screams as you know end game stuff, so we should be able to have a bump of speed in the beginning, and then by the time he comes in, it comes in. We could definitely have some attacks on him. So okay, cool. I get it. Um, putting that, he places a stun debuff, so there's no affinity issue there. We do have block debuffs, so again, just in the back of my mind, I'm thinking we want to have a decent amount of champs here. Summons, the A3, which I imagine he's going to open up with first, is that MiniMimic. So okay, as you can see, there's a mini me there, okay, that has a that basically ingests. So we're basically going to be missing our top-notch crit damage dude. Okay, fine. So then you just have somebody else, 2 points below them, and that's fine. Uh, the thing that really, 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 really kicked me in here was Fortune's Feast. Okay, for every 3 buffs the enemy team receives, which I am reading it as me. So my team, it decreases the cooldown of feeding time. Okay. At the start of the Mimic's turn, whatever heals the main dude by 25% of its max HP. Okay, cool. Let me get into that. Almighty Immunity, the passive, so he's basically all CC is null and void. Okay. Almighty Persistence, all turn meter reduction effects are decreased by 50% when going against a boss. All right. Awakened Weakness, the same thing like with the not the potion keeps, but the essence keeps, Phantom Shogun and all that fun stuff adds in there. Okay, cool. Almighty Strength, damage from skills that based on max HP cannot exceed 5%. So Newt still is a good option, but doesn't do nearly as much damage. Fine. Damage from HP burns can't exceed 1% of the max HP. All right. So, okay, we can't bust out a combustible team and have it do buku damage. All right, understood. So, with all that said, and that was a whole lot there, and I apologize, and welcome back. Here I am. Did want to talk about some champs that I am kind of geeked to use. Um, the first one being, well, I could start from the top, right? Uh, this was, I looked at it as blocking debuffs as well as having the minimal amount of buffs on us as much as we can. So the big thing here is just the block debuffs on us, and then decrease in the duration of any buffs that he may have. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot, right? Um, but he's also placing a block buff on him, and this is going to go into the other um, boss that got leaked and all that fun stuff. But I think the block debuff on us is going to be huge. This way we don't get stunned, and we just deal with the turn meter decrease than anything else. So I'm okay with Lazurius because he also has that passive of revive. Thought about damage as well, so I got Siggy here, straight up just damage. Like awesome shit. That's what we need. Again, removes all debuffs from all allies, and then he's filling our return meter by 15, and he's also placing a block debuff on us. Like, yeah, I get it. He's a mythic. Not a lot of people have him. All that fun stuff. But if I have him, I want to use him. And Frankie wants to say hi. Come here, honey. So I kind of want that to happen. And he's got the ability to revive us. We get the perfect veil. Okay, cool. Like he's gonna be in a lot of teams, and I get it because he does do a lot. He's filling our turn meters. That's just amazing. So that's good. Um, again, looking at that turn meter, and I didn't have Nell all the way booked, so that's something I need to do eventually. But tossing in an AoE, decrease defense and weaken, it's only going to help us out when we go against those mimic, yeah, the small guys. So turn meter is what I was pumped for, and if there's any turn meter increase, there's going to be some poisons there. I believe Nub was saying that the poisons are not going to be as much damage. That's fine, but it's still something, so we could still work around that. Really, I just had Commodus just as damage, just for that mini mimic. Carnage, I really like the idea of the counterattack. When that mimic is not stunning him, then he could potentially attack more, and we're gonna need those attacks, right? So he's frankly he's up there with my damage. So I wanna crank that out as much as I can. So the more damage I could deal, the better. Uh, Theodosia, I really just want to have uh, her second form, which is the decreased speed. Which, hang on here, I don't remember if I am able to put that on there. One of them was allergic to decreased speed. I think that one works. We also get the decrease of turn meter. Granted, it's going to be penalized, but it's still something. We have the block buffs, the decreased defense, which is just ginormous. I want that to kick in. So the other big thing is destroying the target speed by 3. I think this is going to be huge in this forest, and I could see this working quite well. So I want that to happen. Although, uh, it doesn't really say anything in the infograph that speed cannot be decreased. So okay, here the ally attack. Really that's a big thing. Although I don't like the idea of the increased attack and increased crit damage on us, but okay, like that's a sacrifice I'm gonna have to make. We'll see what happens. Here with Vizier, I really enjoy just increasing the duration of all debuffs. I want to make sure that on those debuffs that I get from Theodosia, I could extend those as much as I can. So him and Gwendolyn, they could potentially work really well. Here with Dracomorph, I just wanted weaken and decrease defense. He's placing it. I don't know the resistance of this boss, so having a place is kind of big, as well as the poison. That's fine, and then just damage. Uh, I really like the idea of heal reduction. That could be big, So I don't know if he self heals or if there's a mechanic for him to self heal, but I think that's more for the next boss than anything else. So I like the idea as well as the leech, but we got to be careful here with the increased speed and increased crit damage. So that's out there. With Ancora, I like the idea of removing all debuffs, albeit she puts a shield out there, so that's one buff. Just got to be careful with it, as well as increasing her turn meter. You know, it's it's just picking and choosing how that goes, as well as reviving and the cooldown reset. So I think that's really good, man. I think that's really good. I was also leaning into the heal reduction here, as well as the block buffs. But again, I think that's more for the later boss than anything else. Marishka, if you have her, you know how good she is. But removing all debuffs from all allies, I think that's big. Again with the stun as well as anything else that comes up, that's big. You don't. I don't really want to use Font of Tenacity. I really just want to spam these two as much as I can, as well as there's that ally attack on the A1. So that's really simple. Here, Morrigan does it just a whole lot. Anti-boss stuff. Decreasing accuracy is really. It can be good. So I'm kind of pumped to see how that works. I have her as a 6-star, so Brimstone is really solid. She's only decreasing turn meter, but she's also filling ours and giving us an increased speed. So okay, there's some speed mechanics, some turn meter mechanics that I'd like to use. And again, it's just 2 turns. If I have her with Vizier, there could this could stay on the whole time. Granted, they don't do that much damage, so I want to take care of Mini-Me as quickly as I can. So potentially Carnage in there as a single target, like that could be pretty sweet. As long as I don't have to force fire on Big Boss Man, I think I'm okay. Which kind of gets into the whole Hex discussion that I had before. I think Hex could maybe play a huge part in this too, because we want to be able to knock out the Mini-Me while still taking some pot shots at Big Boss Man. And I don't really have a Hexer here, so well, I do with a gear set. Anyways, I fast forwarded a little bit. Let me go back to present tense. Let me talk about Ramantu. Uh, it's really just all the debuffs that he's putting out there. The decreased defense, weaken, speed, as well as a block buff. I think that's big. All that. No, no look in the face. I think that's pretty big. As well as we have a boat. I don't even have a relic on ya. I have Giant Slayer? Jeez. Well, that kind of makes sense, though. Um, yeah, because it occurs on each hit. So that that could be super, super big. There could be a whole lot of damage there. So I'm okay. Reasonably, I'm okay with this right now. Here with Lamasu, it's just a manipulation of turn meter, essentially, as well as the cooldown. So as long as I have a decreased defense out there, I can maybe just toss in Siggy and Lamasu and just do a double dip in there, and that can be pretty powerful. Uh, Granite, I don't really use Granite that much. He's not booked or anything like that, but each hit ignoring target's defense is pretty big, increasing accuracy on us while also decreasing defense and blocking buffs. Pretty big. Again, not just for this boss, but also for the other ones. I think that's really, really big. Albeit the A3 may kind of get us in the end with the shatter and increased crit damage on everybody. Because again, decreasing the cooldown of being chewed up, right? Is every three buffs that we receive. So we kind of want to pick and choose what we could get as much as we can. Additionally, uh, stuns just flake off them, so that's awesome. If I don't have to waste a turn removing a debuff, I love it. I want to do that. Again, just increasing resistance. It does have perfect fail, which do we really, really want? I don't know. Um, Decreasing accuracy and block buff, decreased speed, or I'm sorry, it's just ignoring 20% of target's resistance, so we don't have to have that much accuracy on them. That's awesome. As well as the passive, just really bumping up without actually putting a buff. That's going to be great. To get an increased accuracy by 50 if they have 3 or more buffs. Cool. I don't have to put out a fourth one. You know, I think that's awesome. Um, if there's 4 or more, that means that feeding time is decreased by 1 turn, but I also have the ability to do more damage. All right, let's run with that. And then Key Hulk could be good. It's just he puts out so many buffs. Like we get counterattack, unkillable, as well as a taunt. Yikes! Immediately that decreases the turn meter, the cooldown of feeding time by 1 just on this. Granted, they're protected, so unkillable should conceivably take us to the end as long as I have the ability to keep it going. But still, to have somebody ingested, and that really, really sucks, man. So I'd be intrigued by him for sure. And then he's putting out decreased defense, weaken, decreased accuracy, as well as decreased resistance. That's awesome. I'm a fan, and I think I have him in Hex right now, which I talked about before. That was more for a Hydra, whatever. I think that could be good here. We need Hex just in case if like we want damage. We want to knock this dudeski out. So putting Hex out there isn't the end. It may not be that bad. We can't provoke people in in this treasure hunt with Mimic, but we could definitely have some fun with it too. Because we know that Big Mimic is immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, blah blah blah. But do we? I don't know. Um, I don't know if MiniMimic could be provoked, stunned, or anything like that, which could toss in a whole new wrinkle to how this is played, right? Because we could still stun ads in faction wars, for instance, uh, in Ice Golem. So there is a potential that maybe these mini dudes could also be stunned or provoked or anything along those lines. And if that's the case, well, shit, it just made this just a little bit easier. Um, because if if they're stunned or anything like that, like we have the potential to deal a little bit more damage. So, depending on the masteries that you choose, you know, so opportunist makes makes a comeback maybe. Uh, Again, this is the first of what 7 new bosses that they're releasing that potentially can go into the forest. So I'm not putting it out there that everybody should change their masteries for this, but it may be time to take a look at the skill tree one or mastery tree one more time to make sure that it's fully aligned with what our dudes are doing, as well as potentially what our dudes are doing in a team, because that's a big component, and I think that's what Plarium has really been pushing is more of a team aspect. And in this scenario, I think that's going to be wicked awesome. Uh, if I could have, you know, geez, a team like I don't have opportunist on Carnage, but if if I did, that really kind of bumps up a lot of other stuff. If he's with Key Hulk, so I think that's a lot of fun right there. Um, but yeah, still a way too early preliminary discussion about Mimic. Don't know how soon we'll get there or anything like that, but I still think tomorrow they're going to release something. But especially with all this, you know, leaks and all that fun stuff. So I I I, I am pumped for this. I really really enjoy it. Any new content in Raid makes me makes me happy. Give me that challenge, and I think these 20 could definitely have. I'm definitely gonna have fun with this. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me until the very end here. And Frankie says hello. The end.